Good morning, everybody. What an amazing day for Kansas City. As Donna said, I'm Tom Garand, Executive Director of Kansas City Streetcar Authority, and I want to welcome you all to Singleton Yard, here, home of Kansas City Streetcar and our future expansion. I also want to acknowledge those that are joining us virtually. We are streaming this live on Facebook, so be aware of that. Welcome to you who are with us virtually today. Today is a great day for Kansas City, and it's not just because we are executing the largest transportation grant in our region's history, but because we are here today together with our friends and our partners in a week, frankly, of incredible sadness and emotion to affirm our city's strength, to affirm our ability to do big things, and to affirm our commitment and our vision for our city's future. Today we are here to execute and finalize a $174 million full funding grant agreement with our partners at the Federal Transit Administration to build and construct the $350 million KC Streetcar Main Street extension from Union Station to the University of Missouri, Kansas City. This grant is the largest in our region's history, and yes, $350 million investment in our community will pay immediate impacts and dividends in terms of jobs and community improvements, but it's frankly more than that. The Main Street extension will complete a vision for transit on Main Street that is decades in the making. It will spur billions of dollars in community investment over decades, attracting residents and jobs to the Main Street corridor. And it will put a once-in-a-generation stake in the ground that says, we believe in our future. The work doesn't happen by accident, but only through incredible partnership. So I'm going to take just a minute to recognize some of those partners before we really get into the program. First of all, I want to recognize our multi-agency partnership. Kansas City Streetcar Authority, City of Kansas City, Missouri, the KC, Ride KC, and our TDD partners. But for their efforts, this work would not happen. We need to recognize and show gratitude to Mayor Lucas, who you'll hear from in a moment, and our elected leadership, our District 4 Council representatives, for their incredible support. Our bi-state regional delegation, you'll be hearing a message from Congressman Cleaver in just a moment, but it is our bi-state regional congressional delegation with both Democrats and Republicans in Kansas and Missouri who helped advocate for investment in Kansas City that's going to yield the largest transportation grant in our city's history. Our Federal Transit Administration and our federal partners and the amazing staff at Region 7, located right here in Kansas City. Again, but for their staff work in helping us navigate this complicated federal process and their support from Washington, D.C., this would not happen. Obviously, our streetcar team, our staff at the Streetcar Authority, Donna and Ebony for organizing this event, our Herzog and our operations and maintenance team, who for the last 5 years has been operating what we believe to be the best streetcar system in the country, and that has paved the way for our ability to have a conversation about expansion with the community that's strongly supported. And last but not least, our Main Street Extension project team. Saw Ralph Davis, Jason Waldron, the project manager on this project, is somewhere in the room, and the amazing people, many of which are behind the scenes, Nelson Munoz, Tammy Queen, the people doing the really hard stuff that make this work go. Their efforts, we've compiled the best team in the country, and I say that in confidence, and HDR, our project designers, and Herzog and Stacey Whitbeck, our joint venture on construction. So we pulled together the very best in Kansas City to build the best in Kansas City, and you all should be very proud of that. And so today, our program will include comments from our key partners. It takes a village. For the benefit of the media, I think Donna covered the agenda, but we will have a virtual message in just a moment from Congressman Cleaver, followed by a virtual message in grant signing from FTA, and Jane Williams, Deputy Administrator for FTA. We will have comments from our project partners, and we'll close with comments from Mayor Lucas and the signing by City Manager Brian Platt. So without further ado, I would call your attention to the screen. for a message from our Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver.
Representative from Missouri's 5th District, and I really regret not being able to join you there today for this particular ceremony, and it's a very important one at that. And I want to congratulate everyone at Ride KC for your commitment to making the KC Streetcar Main Street extension a reality. Securing $174 million is a big deal. I mean, this is no small feat, and unfortunately, I will not be able to be there with you because, as you may have seen on television or read about, we've had a little confusion up here in the U.S. Capitol, and everything is kind of messed up, and we are still trying to figure out how to make things work around here. But in the 4.5 years since the streetcar completed its very first route through the city, over 8 million people have taken a ride on the light rail system, making the streetcar one of the city's most exciting developments in recent memory. With well over 6,000 riders every single day, the streetcar has made traveling between River Market and Union Station remarkably efficient. I want to just thank my friend and colleague, Congressman Graves, who put a lot of work and energy into getting this project. Sam is very, very impressive when he's going after money in the transportation world here in Washington. And he knew, as I do, that $174 million from the FTA will do just that. It will connect Union Station to UMKC with 8 stops along the way. The 3.5 miles of additional track will make Main Street extension a tremendous milestone for our city. Hey, congratulations to all you guys. Keep up the good work, and God bless.
Again, but for their efforts, we would not be here today announcing this amazing award. We're going to transition now to a video from Jane Williams. And I do want to communicate on behalf of Makti Ahmad and Region 7 staff, obviously, due to the circumstances, are not able to be here with us in person, have participated virtually, and obviously send their thanks to the full partnership on their behalf.
Thank you, Mayor Lucas, for the invitation to join you at this historic celebration as we sign the federal grant agreement for the Kansas City Streetcar Main Street Extension. I'd also like to take a moment to recognize Tom Gerand, Kansas City Streetcar Authority Executive Director, and his team at the Kansas City Streetcar Authority, as well as Robbie Makinen, KCATA CEO, and his team at the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, City Manager Brian Platt, and the Kansas City City Council, the City of Kansas City, Missouri, and of course, our FTA Region 7 and headquarters staff with me here virtually today in celebrating this significant grant. I'd also like to acknowledge the congressional leaders who have been supportive of this project, including Senators Blunt, Hawley, and Moran, and Representatives Graves, Cleaver, and Davids. Thank you all for the incredible amount of time and effort each of you have dedicated to make signing of an agreement possible. Thanks also to everyone joining us today to celebrate the signing of the full funding grant agreement for the streetcar extension. On behalf of Secretary Elaine Chao and the U.S. Department of Transportation, I am pleased to sign this $174.1 million federal grant agreement with the City of Kansas City, Missouri for the Kansas City Streetcar Main Street Extension. But first, let me begin by acknowledging the heroic efforts of the transit industry, particularly frontline workers during the COVID-19 public health emergency. Since the beginning, the transit industry has provided essential services to communities large and small across our nation, transporting essential workers in healthcare, emergency response, and food services, jobs that have sustained all of us over the past several months. Thank you for your resilience and commitment to providing critical transportation services for the millions of Americans who depend on public transportation every day. This project, funded through FTA's Capital Investment Grants program, will extend the original Kansas City streetcar 3.5 miles south from Union Station to the University of Missouri, Kansas City. This grant, the first capital investment grant awarded to the streetcar and the largest federal transit award in the city's history, adds to the growing streetcar network that started with the opening of the original 2-mile line 4 years ago. The streetcar will link riders to jobs and educational opportunities at the university, as well as improve access and mobility to community services and support economic development along the Main Street corridor. The streetcar has been credited already with helping revitalize downtown Kansas City with billions of dollars in investment, and more development is being planned along the route. By connecting with buses, including the MAX bus rapid transit system run by the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority and partially funded through a $29.89 million FTA capital investment grant in 2018, the streetcar creates a more integrated transit system in Kansas City. With today's announcement, FTA has advanced funding for 41 new CIG projects throughout the nation under the Trump administration since January 20, 2017. Totaling approximately $10.7 billion in funding commitments. The streetcar extension has already received 2 funding allocations totaling $100 million, demonstrating our commitment to this project. The USDOT supported the 3rd streetcar line, the Riverfront extension, through a $14.2 million build grant in September. Today's announcement is in addition to the $25 billion in federal aid this administration is providing to transit systems nationwide during the COVID-19 public health emergency, including $287 million to the state of Missouri, $55 million of which went to Kansas City. Our support for public transportation helps keep America moving and plays a vital role in the nation's continued economic recovery. With that, I'm happy to officially sign the full funding grant agreement for the Kansas City Streetcar Main Street Extension. As you can see on the screen located behind me, we have gathered the DC headquarters and regional FTA staff responsible for getting this $174.1 million grant agreement with Kansas City across the finish line. I'd like to particularly thank our FTA Region 7 Administrator, Makdi Ahmad, and his team, as well as the Associate Administrator of Planning and the Environment, Felicia James, and FTA's Associate Administrator of Program Management, Bruce Robinson, and their teams. Thank you for your dedication and diligence. We are proud to be your federal partner supporting the Kansas City Streetcar Extension and the Americans who depend on public transportation.
Further ado, we are going to move on to some comments and some remarks from our project partners, and we will start with Jeff Crum, Chairman of the Kansas City Streetcar Authority.
Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this truly wonderful day. It's a day that a lot of people have worked towards for a very long time. We're here, of course, to celebrate the reality that our 2.2-mile streetcar starter line will soon become something much more. We're focused on the future, as we rightfully should be, but I'd like to take just a moment to step back, to pause and reflect on how we got here. A truly incalculable amount of energy and effort was expended to get us to this point, to this day. I can't acknowledge all of the hundreds of people who played important roles, or we'd be here for hours, but I would like to recognize just a few of the essential efforts and the key individuals who made this day possible. 10 years ago, Kansas City had witnessed 9 ambitious citywide attempts to construct fixed rail transit over the preceding 2 decades. 9 failed efforts. A group of determined downtown citizens, including Kansas City Streetcar Authority board members David Johnson and Matt Staub, came to the conclusion that we had to start somewhere, even if it meant starting small. They and others worked with then Mayor Sly James and Councilman Russ Johnson, believing that a fixed rail line in downtown Kansas City was possible and that, if done right, could play a hugely important role in the revitalization of our downtown. Mayor James, Councilman Johnson, Councilwoman Markusson, and others showed real leadership, taking serious political risks to champion this downtown starter line. They were aided by many, many individuals and groups. The Downtown Council, led by Bill Dietrich, by Warren Erdman of Kansas City Southern and other leaders in the civic and business community, by Attorney Doug Stone, who worked with the team to determine the most effective means to structure and to fund the starter line, and by Tom Trabon, who was instrumental in every aspect of the effort and who served as chair of the Streetcar Authority until his untimely death in 2016. The Kansas City Regional Transit Alliance played a critical role and has continued to do so. We owe a special debt of gratitude to Kite Singleton, a longtime leader of the RTA and a stalwart promoter of transit, for whom this facility is named. We're grateful as well to our partners at the Kansas City Area Transportation Authority, now under the visionary leadership of Robbie McKinnon. We're thankful for the ongoing support and encouragement of Mayor Quentin Lucas and the City Council. These officials understand the importance of a robust, multimodal transit system to making a successful city, and through their leadership have made zero-fare transit a truly bold and unprecedented initiative, a citywide reality. It's important to note also that the starter line and the major expansion we celebrate today are possible only because of the citizens living in the transportation development districts voted overwhelmingly, first to create the districts and then to tax themselves. It is these funds and the grant awards from the Federal Transit Administration that make the streetcar run. Finally, I'd like to thank all my colleagues on the Streetcar Authority, many of whom have served since the organization was created back in 2012. But in my mind, the biggest debt of gratitude of all is owed to Streetcar Authority Executive Director Tom Guerin and his small but mighty staff of Donna Mandelbaum and Ebony Jackson. I'm personally convinced that without Tom's incredible diligence, his skill, his tenacity, and his steady hand, we would not be here today. I tease him that he's been coasting for a couple years now, but buckle up, Tom, it's about to get real. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff. Next up, we have Jan Markusson, who's chair of the Main Street Rail Transportation Development District. Jan?
Thank you, Tom, and thanks for being here. I was asked to talk about the role of the TDD, and it's pretty straightforward. The Transportation Development District oversees the management of the funding necessary to provide that federal match. So we are very administrative. But I want to thank the people who behind the scenes made this happen. It started with a group of 50 residents who petitioned the court to be able to set up a Transportation Development District. 3 separate elections where over 75% of the residents voted to approve establishing the district, funding the district, and then elected a board of directors. And several are here today: Chrissy Dastrup, David Johnson, Jeff Crum, and I sit on the board. I'm not sure I see any others. But over the last 2 years, we have been working behind the scenes to get all the many pieces of the puzzle that need to be in place so we can accept this funding and go forward. We promised the voters that we would start the financing as soon as we got federal funding. We were somewhat surprised that we got it so quickly, so we were very, very thrilled with the FTA for expediting this process. So we're on track to get going. We are very excited. The residents are excited, and it's obvious if you go down Main Street now, investors and developers are very, very excited, as they were in the downtown, to redevelop that area along Main Street. And this is a really good day for Kansas City, and we are so excited and we're so thankful for all the work that has gone on behind the scenes. So thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Next up, we have the president and CEO of Ride KC, Robbie McKinnon. Before I give him the microphone, We got to save some time for Mayor Lucas, Robbie. So just a heads up on that. The second thing I need to say is Robbie and I go back many years, and when the TDD was passed and formed, there was a question because these big things can be hard to do. How are we going to move this forward? And a phone call from me to Robbie to say we need to find money and staff capacity and expertise to pick up this opportunity and to move it forward was greeted with nothing but let's go. The Ride KC has come to the table from day one with resources, capacity, and financial support that but for their commitment to this project as part of a regional system, it does not happen. So Robbie, thank you for your leadership and your friendship.
You bet. I know we thanked a lot of people today, and I'm going to add to that list real quick. On behalf of the group here, I know I can speak on behalf of them. I'd like to thank the 700 to 800 operators of streetcar, buses, maintenance, mechanics, safety and security people that have been putting their lives on the line every day but never get talked about as an essential workforce, which they are. We made a commitment a year ago that we weren't going to run away from the people that needed us the most. We were going to run toward them, and that's what we've all done. And I think that's fantastic. So when you talk about the technology side, the innovation side, the expansion, the fact that the streetcar is the backbone of a comprehensive transit plan, of a regional comprehensive transit plan, and that the more we can keep going on this, the better it's going to be for everybody. The fact that Ride KC now is mode agnostic and we can go from smoothly and efficiently from one to the other, that's a beautiful thing. You may not use public transit, but you depend on people every day who do. And those people are the folks that go to the hospitals, that stock your grocery stores, that make your coffee. They're the lifeblood of this city. And that's who we're transferring every day. So let's not forget about them. And while the rest of the country is back on their heels and trying to decide, oh, woe is us, how are we gonna stay alive when it comes to a public transit system, we're moving into it. We're leaning into it. We're going to be better off when we come out of this than we were when we started. Why? Because of people like Mayor Lucas, because of people like Tom Guerin, Chairman Crum, Jan Markusson. That's why. And that's why I'm so excited to be a part of this process. Look, the 4 pillars of public transit in Kansas City are not about things going up and down the street. They're about access to housing, access to jobs, access to education, and access to health care. Public transit is that one thing. It's that one thing that connects all the dots. And instead of it being on the bottom of the waterfall, it needs to be up top. And when you talk about zero fare, the streetcar's been zero fare. Now, thanks to Mayor Lucas and the City Council, we're zero fare within the system. You're talking about putting money back in people's pocket, especially now when they need it the most. So that $2,000 a year this past year can go to buying prescriptions or groceries or a pair of shoes. That money's not leaving. It's going right back into the community. I'm grateful to be here. I really am. Tom, you are amazing, okay? You've done an amazing job since you've been here, since you started, and I appreciate everybody very much. I forgot what I was supposed to talk about, so I just started talking. But there you go. Thanks.
You gotta love the passion, and for all the right reasons. That's the best part. We're gonna move on, and it's my distinct honor now to get to the heart of why we're here today, and to introduce our mayor, Mayor Quentin Lucas, who's been, again, nothing but supportive of our efforts to continue to advance improvements on Main Street and throughout the city. And Mayor, thank you very much for being here.
Well, after every speech of Robbie Mackinnon, I always just like to say, let the church say amen. I mean, you are one of the best preachers we have in this community, preaching the gospel of public transportation. A few things I want to say. I will not talk too long. First of all, I want to recognize, in addition to a lot of the folks who have been in this for years, Mr. Crum, Councilwoman Markusson, There are other folks that have been both on the outside and inside, and one of those who's been a leader in that is Councilman Eric Bunch, who is here today. And so if we could acknowledge him as well. I remember some time ago, I won't go too into the stories, although we've been here for a little while, so we should have some fun. I was sitting at Tower Tavern with Councilman Bunch. I was Councilman Lucas back then, and we were talking about the streetcar and the future and equity. And I think what you have seen today, and much of what Mr. Makinen said, much of what everyone has said, is that this is about not just the streetcar. It's not about a streetcar line. It's about our city. It's about connecting our city. It's about creating opportunities. It's about ultimately bringing our community together. And that's why we're here to celebrate. That's why we are so very excited. I also want to acknowledge Tom and his staff and their amazing ability to ensure something that we've had a lot of conversation about today or this week in our country, which is continuity. Different mayors, different managers, different elected officials, different administrations. You've been able to work with everyone to build what is this amazing line, to share the story not just of KC Streetcar, but of Kansas City, of our state, and of our region. And I am so very proud of the work you've done. I'll give one brief example. So it seems like I've been mayor for 20 years, but it's only actually been like 16 months. But earlier on in this term, I went to Washington and actually met with Administrator Williams. And to set the scene, it's actually fairly intimidating whenever you meet with some of these administrators. I was sitting in a room, and I think it was just me and my chief of staff, and we had a few notes that Tom wisely prepared and others. And then she came in a phalanx of 7 people. We all stand up for the administrator, and she said, "Well, Mayor, it's nice to meet you, but I've already talked to Tom. I've talked to the folks in Kansas City. You all have already done the work. You made it one of the easiest days of my mayoralty ever." And that is the sort of work, the sort of preparation, the sort of leadership that we have with the KC Streetcar Authority. A few other things that I want to note is really this, and I know the city manager will sign the important document in a second, but we will continue to work with you and to cooperate to build not just the future of public transportation, but as Mr. Makinen mentioned, making sure that we connect every pillar of how we can make Kansas City better with all of these types of projects. People walk up to me all the time and say, how can we be safer and healthier, stronger, have more jobs? It's investments like this. It's work like this. It's recognizing that all of these steps are essential to building a better Kansas City long term. And so to make sure I'm not taking you to church, I made the same mistake that Mr. Makinen did. I forgot what I had to say other than this. Congratulations, but more than anything, good luck. The good luck is the fact that we know we have more work to do. I know that Councilman Bunch, myself, and others will be hearing from constituents over time as we work on this expansion. We have more work to do as we roll out zero-fare transit and, importantly, public transportation initiatives about connecting our city. And we have more work to do to continue to get Kansas Cityans and everyone in our region to know how important the investments we make here are every day for everyday Kansas Cityans. I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention how strong our congressional delegation has been in support of this, particularly Senator Blunt, Congressman Cleaver, Congressman Graves, Senator Moran, Congresswoman Davids, folks who every time that we've had conversation with them, they've stepped up for us, they've been strong advocates. This is what bipartisan cooperation is about. This is what bi-state cooperation is about. And to me, this says we can accomplish almost anything that we as Kansas Cityans put our mind to. I'm from Kansas City, and I remember being a younger man when people were talking about public transportation, fixed rail transit in Kansas City. And people in the 90s saying it couldn't be done. People in the 2000s saying it couldn't be done. Councilwoman Markusson perhaps even having a fight with the mayor sometimes who was saying it couldn't be done. But we see now that it's come to realization and that we can do so much more from here. Thank you all so very much. God bless you all. And importantly, our next step is welcoming our new city manager who has hit the ground running exceptionally well to come up and make sure we sign the document. We don't have background music like the FTA Deputy Administrator, but we can all celebrate it with you. So thank you all so very much, and let's get signed up.